How's it going? Same thing happened again as last time. I was just having fun. I had questions and I was having fun. Then I raised my hand and you called me. But I wrote questions before this time. Last time I didn't.
Does it still apply to where you are now?
Probably not. But
Well, we've really enjoyed this interaction.
all right. This doesn't at all. But what about and this might be really, really stupid, but a percentage of knowing, yeah, this is dumb, but of knowing how far away you are from something that you don't want happening to you. Does that make sense?
Well, your degree of dissatisfaction is an indicator. Before you can know these things, before you can tell how close you are to a manifestation, wanted or unwanted, you have to understand what the emotional guidance signs are. So you have to get in touch with how you feel before you will have any way of knowing. And that's why we're encouraging meditating and therefore practicing the receiving mode, and even further practicing acknowledging when you feel satisfied and when you don't, because then you can gauge what your degree of dissatisfaction is, the degree of it and how often it is, or your degree of satisfaction and how often it is. You can pretty much tell from moods. As you know other people, don't you often, as it regards other people, see things happening in their life, and aren't you able, if you know them well, aren't you able to acknowledge, well, that's about right? Or don't you hear yourself saying things like, well, that was easy to see coming?
Yeah.
It's like that.
Well, okay, so let's say I have kind of a fear of flying, all right? So let's say I'm feeling really good and I get on a plane. It's probably not going to crash, right? Is that what you're saying? If I get on a plane, I'm like, man, this flight's awesome. There's no fear of flying anymore.
There was a time when we talked about it in those terms, because that's where most of you were as you were asking, and we would say things like focus on the positive aspects of the plane and so forth. And most important, this is the guidance that we were giving for a long time, but we've amended it just slightly, and we'll tell you the difference. Our guidance is, if you feel strong negative emotion about something, don't move forward. That's just really good advice. Because if you have strong negative emotion, that means you're not in a good vibrational place. It means you're certainly not in the receiving mode of what you do want. It means you're more likely in the receiving mode of what you don't want. So if it's really strong, then don't move in the direction of it. These days, while we still are saying that, we're offering you a little more subtle guidance by asking you to train yourself to understand what your guidance is telling you. All the time. It happens really often. You'll be, for example, driving in traffic, and there is potential for many different things, wanted and unwanted, to happen around you. And if you're not fixated on it and worried about it, and you're in a good mood, being in a good mood meaning being in the receiving mode, being in the receiving mode meaning being able to receive some impulses from your inner being, you'll feel impulses to do things that will keep you in the path of least resistance. Some years ago, specifically to that topic, Jerry and Esther were in San Francisco, and they were leaving the city, and they were staying south of the city, out sort of near the airport. And Esther was driving. Jerry usually navigated. It may have been before they were familiar with the navigational systems. But as Esther got onto the freeway 101, instead of going south, she went north accidentally. And when Jerry realized it, he said, well, I guess we can just settle in here because this is going to be a long ride across that long bridge. In other words, they were going in the wrong direction, and there was not anything they could do about it. And Esther was apologetic. She felt bad that she'd made this mistake. They were already tired. It was late at night, and this was going to cost them at least an extra hour by Jerry's approximation. And when they got back to where they were, there was like a 99 car pileup that, timing-wise, they may have very well been right in the middle of. So Esther's mistake kept them from being in the middle of all of that. And so when you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and you're not so ready to call what looked like a mistake, but instead you're in a satisfied attitude saying things are always working out for me, and so now we'll get to see some things that we maybe weren't going to see before, and you make the best of things, maybe the worst of things. What happens is, as thoughts are becoming things, there was a vortex that was brewing, and that was already in the works even before it had happened. And everyone in the vicinity had a vibrational, approximate vicinity, had a relationship with that. You see what we're getting at?
Yeah. So I just had another amazing realization. So there's a part of me that feels like I shouldn't be up here because I'm like taking people's time away.
Is it because you know all the answers and you're just showing off? Or do you have a genuine desire to take thought beyond that which has been before?
I do. So.
Well, then how could you be wasting their time?
Exactly. I'm not. So basically.
Well, you see, that's one of those flawed beliefs that a lot of people have, that I'm not worthy, and so I shouldn't take any advantage for myself. I should leave all the advantage to everyone else. But that sounds like there's a limitation, that you believe in the limitation of resources. So if you're gobbling them up, then somebody else doesn't have anything to gobble up. And that certainly is a flawed premise, because everyone is getting everything that they're asking for and ready and willing to receive. And you are not the keeper of their gate. What you get cannot deprive someone else. You are not the creator of their reality.
You're right. So when I was 15, I went deaf in my left ear. So it's kind of amazing, because I feel like I have this part of me that's like infinitely positive over here, and then this part of me that's kind of hopeless and negative over here. But it's this great gauge of like knowing that I need to wake this part of me up and be like, let's go. Does that make sense? And that's kind of like what you have to do with all the energy that doesn't feel like the divine energy, right?
Could serve you very well. Every subject is two subjects, and there's the end of the stick that feels good and the end of the stick that doesn't. There's the satisfying end and the not satisfying end. Every subject is wanted and absence of what is wanted. And so you get to decide which way you lean. We wouldn't take that analogy too far. We would acknowledge that you can hear what you need to hear. We haven't found you having any difficulty in hearing us. And also, there is a wonderful thing when it becomes less necessary to you to rely on physical senses, because you've tapped into that broader sense of being tuned into your broader perspective, who is offering you vibration that you can translate in the form of thought, rather than a vibration that your ear is translating in the form of sound.
So I have one last question. It's a great one.
You follow that?
Yeah, that was great. That was awesome. I totally get that. Because, I mean, your senses change by how connected you are to source. For me, at least.
Well, when you're really in tune with who you are, then your inner being, who is always flowing to you and through you, is often using your physical senses for observation. And so if you're tuned into your inner being, who is using your physical senses for observation, and you're getting the translation of what they're observing through your physical senses, through your mind, then you could certainly bypass anything that you feel is defective in your own body.
That's awesome. I'm going to buy the...
Did you get that?
Yeah, I did. I'm definitely going to buy the recording on that and listen to it a bunch.
We try to be as vague as possible so you'll all buy all of them.
Hello again. I just wanted to be here
It's not
again.
even, but it's always fair.
I just had so much fun yesterday sitting here. I was eager for more fun. And you're just so sparkly, and just looking into your eyes and the focus, it's just amazing. I'm talking to infinite source.
You're talking to infinite source, who is infinitely interested in what you have to say.
No, it's awesome. How could you not want more and more and more and more? I don't feel sorry. I feel selfish, so.
So spit it out.
So, how is it that when we learn this, the momentum goes faster than what we can keep up with, so things are more uncomfortable. So, for example, I was driving along and hit a pothole and blew 2 tires, not just one. And
But what you're describing, and now justifying by further explanation, what you're describing is not accurate. The question is better this: when life causes me to ask for more, how can I turn in the direction of the more quickly? And the answer is by being more aware of your emotions and more sensitive to them and more responsive to them. So that's why we've been really talking about satisfaction. You must get in touch with what the feeling of satisfaction is, and then you must intend to be feeling more of it for yourself.
so I'm probably not thinking about my feelings, and I'm just doing something and not saying, does that really feel good or not?
And so quite a bit of momentum gets going before you have a response to it. Jerry used to describe it this way: sitting in front of a fireplace in his beautiful cashmere sweater, in front of a chinkapin log that sends a spark on his sweater. And if he goes like that immediately, his sweater is fine. But if he doesn't, then the spark burns a hole in his sweater. Not a perfect analogy, but the idea is the faster you acknowledge that you are in something less than the satisfaction mode or less than the receiving mode, then the more quickly you can return to your natural thoughts of well-being, and therefore not allow the momentum of what is not wanted to get going more. It's just managing your gap, that's all.
Okay. Awesome. And I'd love a rampage.
All in good time.
Okay.
Enough?
But I wanted to sit here, but that's okay. I'll sit at my seat and listen to the rampage then.
You know, your proximity is not important. It is just your openness.
I know.
You don't even have
But
to
it's
be
so fun being
in
right
this
here.
room.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't forget to leave a positive message and subscribe.